family. All right, there we go. Making sure that the mic working. So we back in business. So glad to be back with you. I hope you've had a fantastic week since the last time we were together. It's been a good week for me. So actually creating space and allowing myself to feel some things. So it's been great, honestly. So, if you are new here, So Swami Live, where we discuss all things healing through various forms and modality, whether it be conversations, prompt questions, homework, energy readings, just any way you could think of. That's what we do here. And you generally catch us on every Tuesday and Thursdays. Thursday shows a spinoff of our Tuesday show. It is a book club in which, just allows a space for us to reconnect with the child in us and allow somebody to read to us. And then it's every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. Live shows are on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch at this point. We used to be on TikTok, but it kept banning me, realistically, which is why. So we generally do energy cleaning or some sort of energy work before every show. And this week we are on our sacral, which is below your belly button, and it definitely covers your genitalia. The sacral is good for your sexuality, your emotions. It is another emotional center, creativity, and your relationships and your pleasures. So I laughed at the emotions because I've talked about on this show. I'm one of those people who is a heart. I make a lot of decisions from my heart. I make a lot of gut-based decisions, and I definitely make a lot of decisions. Well, I have made a lot of decisions through my sacral. I still make a lot of decisions through my sacral, but it's very differently. It's more about emotions, creativity, relationships, and pleasure and safety and things like that, and less about the sexuality aspect of it. At one point, that was the thing. So the sacral is good for, well, I said was good for, the element for that sacral is water. So spend a little time in some water. Which is funny because every Sunday I generally take a bath. That's my emotional push-up day. So I relax and make sure I create time and space for me to be able to get in touch with whatever emotion I need to get in touch with. And I generally start that off with a bath, a spiritual bath. But so water is the element for it. The color is orange, hence the orange tint to the lighting. If you are into stones, you want to think orange color stones. Carnelian, you want to think tiger's eyes. Well, tiger's eyes is good. It's good for several things to show up on several of your spaces. Orange calcite, citrine, orange colors. Bronzite is actually good for it too. If you are into essential oils, you want to think rose, orange, clary sage, things like that. A couple examples. So to start our show off, we are going to do our bowl, our sound healing. This allows us to be able to set an energy of calmness so we can prepare to join in this conversation and give and receive whatever we need to in this moment, right? So for our breathing exercise, I think I want to do 478. We haven't done that in a while. So for 478, it is you breathe in for a 4 count, you hold for 7, and you release for 8. But you don't have to worry about keeping the count. Just focusing on your breathing and your energy and putting yourself in a space of relaxation and calmness. I will keep the count for you. So on the count of 3, we'll start. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, family. While you calm and relax, I'm just going to get to the affirmations. Imagine yourself in a pool of water, a body of water. Whether it be a pool, a lake, an ocean, a river, whatever. Make sure it's in a space where it covers up right to the middle of your neck. Then you feel the water cleansing, healing, and renewing, and washing away old fears and leaving confidence and certainty in this way. And as you allow that water to cleanse you, I want you to repeat these affirmations after me. I am a creative being. I deserve to enjoy life. I am emotionally balanced. I welcome sensuality into my life. I am worthy and lovable. I am a creative being. I deserve to enjoy life. I am emotionally balanced. I welcome sensuality into my life. I am worthy and lovable. All right, family. Hopefully you're relaxed, and we can get started with the show. Listen, I have prayer plants. Not a lot of them, but prayer plants. They call them prayer plants because at night, generally all their leaves are up like this. So it's supposed to be like praying hands. And I love the plants because they move all day long, right? But generally, I'm not in the room when they start moving. And sometimes I am. So they'll move and bump the blinds or something like that, and I hear a wild noise. So today we're going to be a little loose because I had a long day at work and I really didn't get home in enough time to be able to plan like I like to for the show. So we're going to have a little, it's going to be a little looser than normal, but still informative for us all. Um, Last week, we talked a little bit about the difference between emotions and feelings and a little bit about how they interact, right? So essentially, emotions are a physical response, and they are brief and intense, and they function for survival. That's important, right? Your emotions function for your survival. A way to be able to personalize that idea is more like that fight, flight, or fright type of thing. You know what I mean? That's a real physical response. If I jump around the corner and scare you, you might physically jump. You create emotions with that. Or if you hear random gunshots in the air and it creates an emotion and you might run from that. So, or you see something so horrific. I remember when I was a teacher, we had this little boy and he fell. I mean, he busted his chin bad. I mean, it was bad. So I'm not even going to trip, right? I ain't even going to, yeah. But some of the people, some of the staff, they were just so frozen by this moment. They were just stuck there. And they couldn't believe that they had seen that big gash and that big cut. And feelings are generally the story that we tell ourselves about the emotions we felt, right? Which is funny. And because these stories that we tell ourselves based on our emotions can or may not be true. And that's where we have to understand how our experiences color our view in a way that may keep us from seeing the truth, right? And the interesting thing about these feelings and emotions are emotions and feelings. That's how they function. First is the emotion, then it's the feeling. No, first is the stimulus, whatever it is. Then it's the emotion, then it's the feeling. The stimulus can be a word. So like when we talk about certain words, as a matter of fact, the discussion we've had before about our relationship with hope or my relationship with hope. Hope was a trigger word. I thought hope, you said that word hope, it created emotions and feelings inside of me. Well, it created emotions. And from those emotions, I definitely tell myself stories like hope is for suckers. But we understand now that faith is the destination and hope is the path that we get there. So hope is not for suckers. Hope is for people with vision and direction. But the thing about emotions and feelings is that they can create this somewhat of a feedback loop in how the emotions that you feel create feelings. The emotions that you experience create feelings. And then those feelings can feed into the emotions that you felt in a positive or a negative way. So the stories that we tell ourselves can reinforce positive or negative emotions that we experienced, it, whether they are true or not. The validity of these feelings, or the validity of these, the validity of these feelings are very subjective, and definitely room for debate. We can have discussions about that. So those were like the main topics for last week. This week, we're gonna talk a little bit about several things. So one topic that we've talked a lot about that's been coming up a little bit is this idea of how we confuse the familiar with safe. All right. So I recall I had this relationship with it's funny. It's one of those relationships that you call your friend, or maybe they're your friend, or you say they're your friend, but at periods in that relationship, it definitely has been more than friends, right? And I remember having these interactions, which made it easier, having these interactions where it really be like make up and break up. But it was easier to see it not like make up or break up because we had never made that commitment, right? Which was interesting enough, right? And this dynamic goes on for a long time, 15, 20 years. And life experiences happen and we reconnect, and then in our reconnection, we part for several various reasons, right? And I remember having a conversation with my college roommate, and he is kind of confused about my relationship with this person. And he doesn't understand how come we can't get it together. We can't get it. Why can't we figure it out? He's like, what? How come y'all ain't figured it out in all this time, right? And over the years, the experiences, I remember it was a time I'd give him all types of answers. Well, it was because of this, or well, it was because of that, or just various. I might have made a mistake, or she made a mistake, or whatever. Looking at the experience and the interaction from a place of blame. Because if we're not together, then that means there's someone that can blame, right? So my homeboy asked me what the thing was, and I got to a point where I could I figured it out, at least on the surface level, in the sense that I'd be like, well, they just don't like me, right? And my homeboy is like, no, that's not it. They do like you. And deep down, I know they like me, right? And so I say, well, they don't like me enough. Enough to live up to these expectations that I may have that I said or unsaid, or like me enough to be in some sort of committed dynamic, right? So I took some time and created a little space for me to feel. And I even said it to the person. And they were like, why do you keep saying that I don't like you? So my homeboy asked me the same question, like, why you keep saying that they don't like you? I have to think about what that means. What is a way that I can express what they don't like me means, right? So one of the things that we're talking about, of course, is creating a space for you to be able to feel, right? So I know this word like and not liking me creates some emotions. And there are stories that I tell myself. So as I created space and allowed myself to be able to feel the emotions and come to some solutions or something like that, I get a little clarity. And the clarity comes in the form of a weird dynamic. So I've heard a lot of times there are women that firmly believe that men don't like them. And that was a hard concept to explain because it's an abstract idea. How can you explain that they don't like you? What's that mean? What does I don't like them or they don't like you mean? So as I'm thinking about that, I recognize that this person does love me, right? But I also recognize that they don't like me. And like is in this idea of, do they even like men? Not even me specifically. Do they look at us and think we are good people? And you know, society, most women don't, which is why so many of them chose the bear, right? So as I'm thinking about this, I recognize it's this dynamic that one, they don't even like the opposite gender a as a people, as a person. And then I realize what this like also means is the things that I've grown to love about myself, the things that the people I have some of the strongest relationships with love about me, they hate. So then I ask myself, so how, if you feel like this person loves you but doesn't like you, how do you have a 15-year of back and forth interactions with this person? Chances, not chances, understanding, forgiveness, all these other things. How can you do this with someone that somewhere inside of you, you may feel that they love you, but they don't really like you, right? And the reason why that happens is it's around that same idea of what we just talked about. We confuse the familiar with safe. So somewhere in this dynamic, one of the reasons, the main reason why I could participate, I mean, I was an active participant in all those dynamics, in that is because it was familiar, right? And I think about some of the things that they said that they didn't like about me. And I think about some of the things that other people have said that they don't like about me. Specifically, it was easier for me to draw a connection to the familiarity with the energy of this person, with the energy that I was raised in. And I say this is very important, especially for mothers who have a son. If you are a mother and you have a son, you do have somewhat of some sort of duty to be able to see males and male figures and men in some sort of healthy dynamic. Because at some point, your little boy will be a man, right? And I understood that I was raised by a woman who didn't take the time to necessarily address her thoughts, her feelings, her emotions that related to men. And I know if it wasn't a mother-child type of relationship, it would be easier to be cut off because males aren't seen as valuable, right? So when I think about this relationship, I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what it is. That dynamic is so familiar to me because it's very similar to the dynamic that I was raised in. And we say this because sometimes you find yourself in a space or a place that you wonder how you even got there, or you question why you even stay there. And if you find yourself in that space, or you've ever been in that space, I think it's time to ask yourself, are you confusing the familiar with safe? And what is so familiar about this interaction or this dynamic that I cannot leave it alone? A lot of times, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, the fear of the unknown keeps us trapped in this space. Like, what would I do without this person? Or what would I do without this job? And what you would actually do is survive, like you've always had. So as you're in this healing space, make sure you create space to feel the emotions so that you will not confuse familiar with safe. And when it came to being safe, or what does safe look like, at first it's frightening. Safe is so unfamiliar that it looks dangerous to you. Safe is so unknown that it looks untrustworthy to you. Safe is so different than your norm that you think that is not a direction for you to go in. So I remember, as a matter of fact, I was having a conversation with one of the Soul family. And we've talked about this on this show about I had a woman that worked for me one time, and she pretty much told me if I don't marry her, she gonna quit the job. So, of course, I'm not married. Anyway, so she would be off. Well, it was so easy for us to be able to label her as crazy. So I'm having a conversation with one of the Soul family, and I start talking about how on my birthday, this person bought me all types of stuff. Did a very good job at picking my size. She ain't asked none of this. Things that I would like, even things that I wanted. And in the conversation, the Soul family was like, don't that make you feel like they crazy? And initially, yes. Because that safe interaction was unknown to me. And I remember when I first started, I told them I actually really loved, that is one thing that I liked about her. If we could have been more in alignment, we might have would have had some sort of chance because I liked that about her, that she paid attention to me, right? I really did like that, right? And I remember when I first experienced that, it did seem crazy. I remember it was a point in my life where I believed that when women used to be worried about me getting home, it was like, yo, what you think gonna happen? I'm gonna go out here and unalive? I'll pass? And that stuff does happen every day. But someone having that concern about me in that dynamic was brand new. So it seemed weird. It was unfamiliar than the dynamic that I was living in, but no one knew what I was doing. No one cared what I was doing. No, as long as what I was doing didn't interrupt what they was doing, no one cared. So to be in a dynamic where someone actually cared about what I was doing or where I was going or if I made it there safely, that seemed so crazy. It seemed abnormal. But over time and experience, I began to see that as a sign of a safe space. That someone is invested in me enough to see me. And the ironic thing about that is when I do my Reiki, it's funny, right? Because when I do my Reiki, one of the energies that comes up a lot and creates a lot of release is the energy of being seen. One of the reasons people receive so much from those sessions is because they finally feel seen. And everybody wants to feel seen, wants to experience seen. The pieces of them that most people don't see. They look beyond that, or they only look at the surface, right? But the thing about being seen is for people to see you, you actually have to allow yourself to be seen. For people to be able to respond to the true you, to be able to pour in you, to be able to provide for you, some of the things that you need, you have to allow yourself to be seen. And specifically, those pieces of yourself that I wrote down some notes. But specifically, those pieces of yourself that you don't see. Because you've protected those pieces so feverishly that even you haven't visited those emotions in a while. That even when you feel them now, emotions you've experienced before, they create a level of fear in you. Something else, no, we're doing good. Something else we have to do in creating this space to be able to feel is a feeling of acceptance. Acceptance of the pieces of us that we don't identify with. The pieces of ourselves that we don't like to think that is us. So the negative traits, the shadow side, as some like to say. So I watched this video the other day. Perfect example of not accepting the pieces of yourself, the true pieces of yourself. I watched this video the other day, a clip, and one of the people on the panel said, "I have zero ego." And that zero ego is one of the most egotistical things a person can say. Because we all have ego. But this person applies ego in a way that doesn't allow them to recognize that that is a piece of them. You do have ego, and your ego protects you. Your ego is why you don't want to risk your heart again. Right? So I think about, even with myself, this idea of intimidating. I've experienced this so many different ways, specifically at work, where I'll supervise somebody, or I'll be in a position to be able to guide somebody. And they are so afraid to talk to me. And they will tell me that I'm intimidating. And my response will be, I don't get that. How? Why? And every time somebody says that, I deny it. Because it's been a piece of myself that I don't identify as. I don't think of myself as intimidating. So since I don't think of myself as intimidating, I must not be intimidating. Just like that person on the panel. They figure, since they don't think they have any ego, they must not have any ego. And if we don't create a space for us to be able to accept all pieces of who we are, how do we live authentically? It makes me think about one of the reasons people say for how they experienced, how they became victims, is the person was pretending. We all are pretending. How many of you are living your true and authentic self? How many pieces of you do you hide for fear or whatever story you allow your feelings to tell you about your emotions? I learned about something kind of new. Well, it's not new, but it was an idea I never thought about. It's this idea of you know, in the space of allowing ourselves to feel why is it important to create this space to feel? Because as we discussed, the answers that you're looking for are not hard to find. They are not hidden, at least not hidden from you. Your answers are not hidden from you. The answers that we seek reside right in the spaces where we feel and experience emotions. The emotions give us many answers. This is natural as breathing. But the thing about that is, those spaces where we feel emotions, we don't visit. Or we've protected so relentlessly that we ourselves have forgot how it felt to experience these things. We've justified our own imprisonment of our emotions for the sake of protection. We've justified the imprisonment through our feelings. That we don't allow ourselves to experience the full spectrum of being human, because so much of our letting go has been tied to the what ifs. But what if? But what if? But what if? We are not experiencing the pleasures that we are intended to, the passions through interactions and people, because we don't create a space for us to feel emotions. So we never learn to navigate our emotions. But for some reason, we anticipate that we'll have the skills to be able to navigate others' emotions. And we trust wholeheartedly that the feelings, the stories that we tell ourselves about these emotions will be true, even though we've never taken the time to live authentically and free with our own emotions. So, why is it important? Because as we learn to navigate ourselves, it better us for navigating the emotions of the world and the people within it. So I think that's a good space. I think next week we're gonna do something a little different. But one of the things, why is this also important too? Because it allows us to assess the relationships that keep us trapped, right? And by relationships, I don't even mean with people at this time. I mean our relationships with ideas and thoughts that keep us trapped, right? For example, it's that idea of a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? People say that all the time, and they use that as a slight to people, as though you haven't taken the time to do your due diligence to become an expert at whatever task that you've done. So now you're a jack of all trades, a master of none. But the second half of that saying is oftentimes better than a master of one. So a lot of times in our lives, we were making a decision on incomplete information. We've been focusing on mastering one thing when our freedom resides in experiencing several things. And when you're starting to think about these ideas, your relationship with these thoughts and ideas, the first thing you want to do is, as we talked about, is review. Are these thoughts and ideas even yours? Or were they given to you in an attempt to protect you from the what ifs? Well intended, but do they match the life that you want to live now? Don't trust strangers, as we've talked about. But how many times in your life have you had to trust a stranger? But also, have you reviewed your relationship with this idea or this thought of don't trust strangers? And when we think about that, how many thoughts and ideas are you attached to that are not even in line with the truth that you have lived? And then when we talk about the truth that we have lived, we must also consider, are the truths we lived the truth? Or is it an outline experience? And when you ask yourself these questions, you have to be aware of your confirmation bias. It's just like that idea where I say the universe has no obligation to to prove you wrong. That is confirmation bias. You are more likely to pay attention to the things that affirm your thoughts, no matter how toxic, than the things that may prove you wrong. And in that space of feelings, you get to review your relationships with these ideas and thoughts, specifically for love. Or family. Or something like diet. Or travel. One thing I learned a little bit about is this idea of offering help versus suggesting ways that you can help. So it was like I remember when my pops died, right? And it would be people who would want to be supportive. And they'd say things like, just let me know what I can do to help you. And although that is well intended, it definitely makes the assumption that when you ask someone that, or you say that to someone, it makes the assumption that they know what they need. And when a person is in crisis, they may not know what they need. So a different way to approach that is to suggest ideas. For example, if somebody would have said, hey, do you need someone to bring you some food over? I'd have been like, yeah. Thanks for that suggestion. Or if someone would have said, do you need help washing your clothes and folding them? a brother can dream, I'd have been like, yeah. And what I realize is one of the things that makes it difficult for us to be able to pour into each other is that we hide and protect all of the places that need to be poured into, so no one has any idea how they can support and replenish us. Um, doo doo doo. We were gonna do this video, but I think we'll do the video next week. But I think the concept is a very good concept, period. And it's around this idea of fear setting. And I forget the guy's name, but we'll go through his name and all that stuff next week. So I'm sure many of us have experienced goal setting. And what you set the goal, even if you know this idea, SMART goals. Oh my God, SMART goals. But you set a goal and you go for it, right? So this idea of fear setting is more than setting goals. Also do your fear setting, right? So that is essentially think about an event or something you want to do and really begin to identify the fears around that specific topic. So let's say you've been wanting to create your own business, right? You have that as a goal. So now that you have this goal, your fear setting is let's identify and define the fears that I may deal with that will keep me from that goal. And then once you identify those fears, then you begin to identify ways that you can prevent those fears from keeping you from your goals. And once you identify the ways that you can prevent those fears from keeping you from your goals, you also identify ways to repair. In case that fear creeps up anyway. Because we are human. It's a way to give ourselves grace. So I like that idea. Because I've thought about many goals I've had, and I've never really identified all the fears that I faced around those goals. I just always looked at it as a part of the process. But not spending time on those emotions, not being able to identify those fears, how do I navigate them when they show up? Right? What we say last week, strength without softness is suppression. So if I'm not vulnerable enough to be able to experience my fears, identify them, more than likely I'm just going to suppress them. And that doesn't mean that they go away. That means they become my subconscious. And we know our subconscious is the true creator of the reality we see. So then my fears became manifest. And when you think about it, how many goals have you not achieved? Or how many times not achieved? How many times have you taken the space to be able to create, to figure out your fears around a specific task? I go online all the time and I hear people express their fears in all different types of ways. But no one really talks about how those fears are keeping them from their goals. They just keep spewing fears, but no prevention, no repair. But here, we're going to identify, prevent, and repair. So next week, we'll go into the fear setting. We'll watch this video. I forget his name. Let me be respectful, because I can't look at his name a little quickly. What is the guy's name? Tim Ferriss. Okay. So Tim Ferriss. We're going to watch his TED Talks video. Don't go try to look it up now, because it's for us next week. But family, that was a good show for me. Really, if you can, create a little space for you to be able to feel your emotions. Again, because that is important. The answers to your life are not hidden from you. They just reside in the emotions that you no longer allow yourself to feel, or the emotions that you protect yourself so relentlessly, so that no one can see that you feel those emotions, right? And so I hope to see you Tuesday. This is Tuesday. Thursday, we will continue our reading of Makes Me Wanna Holler. If we don't see you Thursday, hope to see you back here next Tuesday. I think, we're going to start talking about this fear setting idea, and we're going to watch the video and have a little conversation around it. So, family, I appreciate, excuse me. It must mean I'm still growing. Family, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. Thank you for joining the show for a while. I do hope you have a great rest of the week. We're going to see you Thursday. And thank you.